Well, my name is Konstantina Lukes, and I have been a member of the City Council for 28 years. I was on the school committee before that for 4 terms. That was an additional 8 years. I think experience has an advantage because you understand the dynamics of making decisions, solving problems, seeing what works and what doesn't work. And it's interesting that the same issues keep cropping up and the same suggestions for solving those issues keep cropping up. My parents were both immigrants from Albania. When I went to school, I didn't speak English. I spent a lot of time at the family restaurant because most immigrants from Greece and Albania seem to open restaurants or food service locations. What has affected me most of all in my service has been the family experience. When I was a child, Albania was closed off to the rest of the world. You really couldn't get in, but it was easier to get in than to get out. And when we got letters from family members, they were redacted, so some government bureaucrat was reading them before they got to us and sanitizing the information. And I had a godfather that decided he was going to return to his family home in Albania. A few years there, he decided he could not tolerate the oppression, tried to leave, a family member told the government, and he was thrown in jail as a political prisoner. Those kinds of experiences taught me not to trust government. One day, my father introduced me to the mayor, and I thought, that's cool, and I was about 8 years old at the time. And I've always had an interest in political science and history, which were my majors at Simmons College. After I went to law school, I became a legal services lawyer, thinking I was representing oppressed peoples. And I was also director of the Civil Liberties Union. Then I ran for school committee, and I decided to run for school committee because I went to a meeting of the school committee. I served for 4 terms. I skipped a term and then ran for City Council-at-Large. And I've never, I think, left that concern about government interfering and not solving problems. And I've always said to anybody that would listen to me, you have a right to question your elected officials. You have not just a right, you have a responsibility. A year ago, I put an item on the agenda saying we've got to do something about achieving zero waste, keeping stuff out of the landfill. And there are lots of ways to do that, but I'll tell you what, let's have a deadline of 2040 to achieve the result in several steps. And I said, look around to what's happening in this city. McDonald's has a plan to have biodegradable and get rid of permanent plastic and those items that can't be degraded. Clearly, we have to do something about keeping that material out of our landfill, making sure it's biodegradable. It's not even healthy to drink even water from a plastic bottle because you're drinking the plastic as well as the water and some of the substances that go into making that plastic. So it's an idea, not whose time has come. Time came long ago, and we're still trying to reach that goal. The most memorable one, and this is probably not politically correct, was keeping fluoride out of the water. And that was memorable because of the grassroots involvement in that effort. They had to go out and collect signatures, put it on the ballot, and then campaign. And the group only had $4,000 from one donor. Whereas the other side, the dentists and the health foundation, spent almost $500,000. And yet the item passed. And I thought, well, when people are interested in an issue, they will come out and vote for it. no matter how much pressure there is wielded on behalf of the other side of the issue. And I just remember that because I was so impressed by the fact that money did not dictate the outcome of that issue. Taking a stand and doing it in a public manner and trying to get face-to-face with your city councilors in terms of what you think they should be doing. Well, if you ever watched a city council meeting, you will see that a half hour before the meeting, we have public participation. And unfortunately, it's the same people that come all the time. We can always say, oh, I know what she's going to say. There is one person that will not hesitate to call us names, accuse us of all sorts of awful sins, etc. And that is an accepted portion of that half hour. That's the first, most obvious way of getting involved in government. Other ways are obviously volunteering. You hear that all the time. And whether it's at a food pantry or at even the library, I think, has volunteers. But it's crucial. We don't get anything done in this city without volunteers. Attending Crime Watch meetings. We have 50 Crime Watch meetings, I think maybe more, Crime Watch groups in the city. We always have a member of the police department there to go through all the crime stats for that month, et cetera. There are members of the city manager's office that are there, members of inspectional services. So that's a great opportunity to stand up, and I've heard neighbors get up and say, you didn't do this, and why didn't you? I told you last month. Fine. Nobody takes it personally. We say, oh yeah, okay, we'll try, we'll look at it again. And then there's the application to serve on boards and commissions. I mean, there are plenty of ways, if you're really interested in getting involved in government and even using it as a stepping stone to getting into office. Residents and constituents can get in touch with any city councilor by going to the city website and checking their email address for the city or calling the city. We have a secretary who processes all our messages, and that's 508-799-1049.